Yeah, honestly, man, it's been a while. I've wanted to sit down with you for ages. You've got a new record coming out. It's exciting times. I guess first question is for you, mate. Turn Up the Dial seems pretty positive in its vibe, and I guess I wanted to ask you what you want people to take away from the record, what it means to you, and what you want people to remember and take away from it.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, music is kind of up to the listener, so they can take away what they want. But, we hope it puts a smile on people's face and makes, or or gets their blood pressure going, just,
Yeah,
you know, lifts the spirits, you know what I mean? And that could be a smile, like I said, that could be wanting to raise your fist up and sing, play it louder,
yeah.
So I think it's just all about coming out of these trying times, all about yeah, hopefully the soundtrack for better days.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely, and that's the thing with the smash it ups out there now. People can hear that, and I wanted to ask you. Um, has this record been quite reflective? Because there's some parts in some tracks on the record, like Middle Finger's another one, and I was just wondering, has it been a reflective process for you, kind of looking back on things and reflecting a bit?
I think most of our lyrics a lot of times are because it comes from life. Sometimes the
Mm,
reflections back to when you're a teenager, sometimes the reflections back to something you just experienced, or someone else in your family did, or whatever. But I feel, or maybe, yeah, just stuff you're going through in life. But I think there's a lot of looking back at our youth,
mm,
like especially because a lot of this has to do with like the power of music and how much it means to you. And thinking back about the bands that inspired us and still inspire us, and thinking back about how much music played a huge role for me personally in
of course.
2020. Like the line says in the song "Turn Up That Dial," turn up the dial till it takes me away, and just like
Mm.
that, closing your eyes and putting the earbuds in and just thinking about other times and memories.
Yeah, absolutely, man, absolutely, and that's I wanted to ask about Middle Finger as well, because I guess you guys have been doing this for so long. I know you can't speak for other members of the band, but how have you changed and developed since the beginning of your career? Since you first had to put together the band to do the first show, you've traveled all over the world. How have you changed and developed as a person? What have you learned about yourself?
Well, yeah, to compare that to Middle Finger, which is more about just growing up in general, like
Mm,
as a young man, and having a chip on both shoulders,
yeah,
and a lot of times the easier road in life is to just turn the other cheek, or to keep your mouth shut, if it's a boss you don't like or whatever. And
yeah, yeah.
I would always feel the need to tell people what I was really thinking, which didn't always pan out for me. And the same in the early days of the band, because we were such like, not underdogs, and we were such like, outcasts, like in the touring world in a lot of
Mm,
ways, that, man, if someone at a venue or whatever didn't treat us with respect, like,
yeah,
or a label, like, we let them know, and we didn't play the game, and yeah, and sometimes people around would say, "Dude, you can't talk to that person like that. That's the head of your record label." I said, "I don't give a shit.
mm,
Show some respect, and that kind of stuff." And I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change a thing with any of that. But like you said, sometimes it probably might not have suited the best interests of what we were trying to accomplish. But it
yeah.
is what it is. We are who we are.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And I mean, that's another thing I wanted to ask you as well, because you've achieved so much. I get to work with a lot of young people who struggling with mental health, and they come from backgrounds that aren't necessarily the most nurturing, and they have a definition of success, and they look at the drop kicks and they go, oh, I'm never going to achieve that. I'm never going to get to there. And I wanted to ask you about your definition of success and what it means to you now, not just as a musician, but as a person as well. What does success mean to you?
I mean, I think success is just being able to get to a point where you can look at yourself in the mirror and you're happy. I mean, I think one of the greatest things in life is finding something that you're happy to do with your life, whether it's your career. And I don't mean that from a monetary sense, just something you're
Mm,
happy to get up and do in the morning. But, I come from a background of, mental illness. My father committed suicide when I was
Mm,
8, and I definitely have had my run-ins with, you know, substance abuse and alcoholism. And, I've been abstinent from alcohol and drugs for 30 years next week. So it's
yeah.
like
Congratulations, man.
since I was a kid, so like I know the hard road, but wherever you're at today doesn't need to be where you're at tomorrow or the next day, like, I don't know. I feel like if myself and this band is not proof that you can do anything you set your mind to, because I mean, I didn't even know how to play. I had never been in a band before. Accepted a bet on 3 weeks' notice to open for my
Yeah,
friend's band, and here we
yeah.
are, 25 years later. So, but I think that the changes on the outside for me back then led to a lot of the successes here. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Because people were kind to us and good to us, and we made a lot of friends along the way that helped us. And I think, as much as I was saying earlier, like, telling people to screw if they were disrespectful, but we also treated people well when they treated us well, and people remember that. And they say, like, uh, in music they'll say, like, be careful how you treat people, because they'll on the way up, if you treat people like shit on the way up, they'll be there to treat you like crap on the way down. And we're not on the way down yet, but we still have the people that started with us in the beginning, local promoters and everything, and now at our shows still backstage bringing their kids, and in some instances their grandkids, and so, like, it's been like family, honestly, like all around the world. The people who were around us in the start are still around 25 years later, which is, I'm pretty proud of that, you know what I mean? Because we haven't been like a band that, like, forgets where we came from or burns bridges along the way, so.
absolutely, man. Absolutely. And I think it might be nice to get a bit of a tip for again, young musicians, because again, a lot of these people want to make music inspired by bands like yourselves, a lot of hardcore punk, a lot of punk music coming out of, these places where I'm working. And what kind of tips would you give to these young people? Is it keeping people close to you? Is it kind of forgetting, because a lot of the times they have a problem with who they used to be, the addiction they used to have, and they kind of let it define them, right? So they're like, they still say they're paying for these mistakes that they made. And I kind of wanted to, ask you, what kind of tips have you got for people going through that kind of struggle? They want to make music, they want to do these things like you've been able to do, but they're maybe still stuck in that headspace of like, oh, I was a shitty person back then. I did shitty things, and I want to move forward.
I think the one thing I see with people in music, I will say sometimes I would say to someone, put your heart and soul into it.
Mm,
But sometimes people put their heart and soul into it to a point where it consumes them,
yeah.
and they let the success or perceived success or failure of the band dictate whether they're succeeding or failing. And that's not good, because there's a lot of that stuff is out of your control. I mean, Dropkick Murphys had a lot of breaks and different things that happened and if I had let the success or failure of the band define who I am, I would struggle. So it's an inside job, and
Yeah.
if you're doing the work on the inside, it'll probably translate to success in the other things in life. But, like, the day is going to come when I'm not a guy in Dropkick Murphys, when I'm just a guy,
Mm.
and I want to be all right with that guy too, not just I used to be in a band.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
So don't let the goals and who you're trying to be define you either. It's like it's good to put your heart and soul into it, but it can't be the end all be all either.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. A couple more questions going back to the record, because I guess this is such a unique time, and you found a really good way of dealing with the pandemic. You've done the streaming events, achieved kind of global notoriety, even in a pandemic, for the work you're doing, charitable work and otherwise. And I wanted to ask you about some of the more enjoyable moments of putting this record together. It must have been really, really interesting. I read that you did some vocals outside, and you were like, had the sounds and everything. So tell me a couple of the most enjoyable moments of putting together the new record, and how kind of challenging or not challenging it was doing it in a global pandemic.
Well, I'll tell you, the first and foremost, just having something to get up for every day and
Yeah,
focus, in those times when life was like shut down, and just be like, man, we have something to do with our lives. Because I think the people that survived the pandemic better were people that still had a job to focus on, and, weren't left to just sit on the couch and doom scroll or watch the news for 24 hours a day, and so it was a lifesaver for us to make this record. But yeah, it had its challenges, definitely having to do things separated, and um, but I think that um, it was unique too. Like you said, challenges are sometimes, they make it. We're up for a challenge, and we felt like we're making a record in a pandemic. We're gonna do this. We're gonna finish this. We're not just gonna use it as an excuse to shelf everything until life returns to normal. And I'm so glad we did. And like I said, it's nice that it's ready as this, not to say that we're out of this thing by any means, but,
no.
as there's positive signs and summer coming and we got the record, it's like I wouldn't want it any other way that it's coming out right now.
Absolutely, man. Again, a big motivator for a lot of people. It's a beautiful thing to listen to, lifting spirits and stuff for sure. I guess just, before we finish, what's been your biggest motivator outside of music in the pandemic? Obviously, we're talking about, your band motivating other people, but what about yourself in terms of, specific people, places, family, things that drive you to help you get out of bed alongside the, making music?
I definitely say, the time with family, and the downside of being in a band is all the travel you do away from family. So like that time with like my children last summer where I was just not having a tour pending, like, oh, I got to go away next week or whatever, it was just to be just, and it's the first place time in 25 years I've been in the same place for that long. So, that was the kind of glass half full way to look at it, but I think even now my kids are like, you going back to work soon? So, that the family side of it was the absolutely hands down the good part, getting to be home a little more.
Absolutely, man. I'm so happy for you. And I guess obviously we're in the UK, and I read there's a lot of positive messages. Obviously, just chatting to you, I can see there's a lot of positivity you want people to take from the record. But what's the message you've got for the fans that have supported you for all these years in the UK and beyond? Anything you want to plug, and say to the fans over here that have always shown love to the Dropkicks.
Yeah, man, we've been coming over there since I think we started in '96. We came there the first time in '97, and man, like real solid friends and solid support people that treat us like family, and the shows have been great. I mean, playing Brixton Academy and just playing everywhere around, all the other cities. It's just been you guys make the whole thing work, man. We need we need you guys, because playing these streams it's really hard without you guys what to get the energy from, because that's where the adrenaline comes from, watching how the audience reacts to the songs. And I can't wait to play in front of live human people again, especially in the UK.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Well, Ken, thank you so much for your time today, man. I know it's only short, but I want next time you go out, man, give my love to Boston. I stayed in Dorchester for a while. I did a job in Cambridge, in
Okay.
Massachusetts. So
Nice.
I used to take the tea in the morning, and I've got a lot of love and a lot of family over there and friends. So send my love to Boston, and
God
thank you
bless,
so
man.
much. Thank you so much for your time, man.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
buddy. God bless.
Take it
Thanks,
easy,
Tom.
man. Bye.
Bye bye.